The Think 20, the think tank engagement group of the Group of 20, is hosted by Saudi Arabia in 2020. Under the T20, top experts have developed new evidence-based proposals to help G20 leaders navigate COVID-19 challenges and advance sustainable and inclusive global recovery. In this podcast, Asian Development Bank Institute Dean Tetsushi Sonobe discusses the policy-making environment amid the pandemic, the potential for breakthroughs, and T20 research to guide policy innovation during Saudi Arabia's G20 presidency and beyond. Dean Sonobe, thank you for joining Asia's Developing Future. Can you start by explaining what impact the COVID-19 pandemic could have on policy innovation?
I think people come to appreciate scientific knowledge, creation, dissemination, and application into policy responses much more than before. People in the world appreciate the great effort and the collaboration among medical researchers in the world to clear up the mystery of the virus, spot its weakness, and so on. People are also appreciating the efforts made by the policymakers and public administrators at central and local governments who put the available best knowledge into practice while accounting for the decision-making process clearly. As a result, people have a better understanding of what evidence-based policy means. So in this sense, COVID-19 changed the kind of situation, and then I think the new situation is more conducive for policy innovation.
How important is the T20 as a mechanism for promoting global policy breakthrough in the current environment?
T20 is an international forum where think tanks in the world discuss global policy issues. It's one of the official engagement groups of the G20 or Group of 20. Its siblings include S20 for scientists, B20 for business community, and C20 for civil society organization. Each group is expected to make intellectual contribution to global policy discussion at G20. But of course, they would play different roles. Unlike other engagement groups, T20 consists of people who have experiences of not only policy studies, but also policy making, public administration, or teaching at public policy schools to nurture future policy makers or train mid-career policy makers. So, at least in theory, the members of T20 can understand what G20 leaders are willing to accept or are skeptical about, or what intellectual support they need to make a decision, and so on. At the same time, many members of T20 have good access to the network of scientists, businessmen, etc. as well, which informs them of the latest knowledge and insight relevant to making good policy proposals. So they can bring useful knowledge and insight to policymakers in the form that policymakers can easily digest. Moreover, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that the members of T20 are competing with each other for reputation as better policy advisor. And at the same time, they are aware of the importance of the communication, collaboration, and cooperation among themselves, which would be very useful for improving the policy proposal. So they have meetings frequently. This year, the sense of crisis has made think tankers express solidarity, and the greater use of video conference these days has made communication and collaboration among think tanks much easier between different regions. So they have had lots of discussion about huge diversity of policy issues, as long as those issues seemed relevant and timely, and ranging from the best practices of COVID-19 containment to economic stimulative packages and their consequences, and the digitalization and the digital divide, and so on. So it will take some time to see which policy proposal become global policy breakthrough. But it is very likely that T20 is making a good contribution to global policy breakthrough, whatever it is.
What are some key issues that ADBI is seeking to advance through the T20 in conjunction with Saudi Arabia's G20 presidency in 2020?
ADBI is seeking to advance the policies addressing digital divide, promoting digital transformation of the world economy, especially the economy in Asia and the Pacific, increasing green investment and private sector involvement in infrastructure development. And ADBI is seeking to be a hub of international tax cooperation in this region to address base erosion and profit shifting, or BEPS.
How receptive do you think the G20 will be to new evidence-based policy ideas?
As I said, post-truth, no place in crisis like the COVID-19 pandemic. So the people appreciate and also understand better the evidence-based policy making. So I think the G20 leaders will be more receptive to the new evidence-based policy ideas.
To wrap things up, what can ADBI and other think tanks do to close the gap in terms of policy innovation interest and implementation capacity in the lead up to the G20 summit on the 21st to the 22nd of November 2020 and into 2021?
Think tanks, including ADBI, have had lots of discussion at fora, including T20 and some others, about global policy issues. So now it's a time to, inform the kind of conclusion or summary of those discussions to the G20 leaders. So, but the T20 is a nice mechanism, because T20 chairmanship moved from country to country together with the G20 presidency. So this year, the think tank in Saudi Arabia was served as the chair of T20, because this year is the year of the Saudi Arabia presidency. So the chair of G20 and chair of T20 are communicating very closely. So I hope that Saudi Arabia chair of T20 nicely presenting the summary or best part of discussion we have had throughout the year to the G20 chair, so that G20 leaders will have a very useful discussion for building implementation capacity. Yeah, so think tanks in the world have to work very hard to provide very nice training programs for the public administration, public administrators in their country and also developing countries. But for this purpose, in the era of digitalization, the e-product like e-learning, which allows the trainees to spend training time anytime, and also they can trace their own progress so that they can learn more. So we should take worldwide think tankers should take advantage of this digital technology, so that implementation capacity can rapidly increase to cope with lots of global policy challenges these days.
This has been Asia's Developing Future, brought to you by the Asian Development Bank Institute in Tokyo. See the show notes for the transcript and related material. For more information about us, please visit adbi.org.